Hey, what's up, everybody? Boy, I tell you, if you were going to talk about like the game of the week, the game of the day, the game that everybody would want to watch on television if it were around in 1908, at this early part of the season, it would probably be this one. We got the White Sox and the Browns. White Sox technically in fourth place, but they're only 2 games behind the Browns, who are leading the league, the American League. The Athletics are moving up. Red Sox moving down after their loss. White Sox in a 3-game losing streak. But when we look into this, the White Sox have Ed Walsh out there up against Rube Waddell. Rube Waddell, by the way, when you get really back into the old newspapers, Rube Waddell back in those days was definitely a known commodity. Those Rube Waddell stories are all over the place, and it's a lot of fun to read. You could write books about that alone. Here's Fielder Jones to lead things off for Chicago. Rolls a 62 for a 12. Here comes that little E. And the roll is a 33. That's going to be a little ground ball over to Jones, the first baseman, does it himself, one away. And here's Ed Hahn. Hahn rolls an 11 for a 0. And the second roll is a 42, and that's going to be a 6. There's a double off of Rube Waddell just like that. That'll bring up Patsy Doherty. And Patsy rolls a 43 for a 29. That is a ground ball over to Jones, the first baseman, who flips over to Waddell covering. There are 2 outs now, and it's George Davis. He rolls a 42 for a 22, change to a 20, and that is going to be a single, and that will score the runner and make this a 1-0 game for the White Sox. And so on 2 hits, they have a run. That was just an infield hit, though. Here's Jake Atz, who rolls a 65 for a 35. That's a pop-up over to Spencer. Atz is starting this game because Parent is injured. I'm not sure how long he's going to be injured for, but we'll figure that out later. George Stone here, bottom of the first inning for the Browns up against Big Ed Walsh. And Stone rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly ball to Doherty in left field for the first out. Here is Roy Hartzell. He rolls a 12 for a 24. It's going to be a ground ball over to Atz. It's short, throws to first for the out, 2 away. And here's Jimmy Williams. Walsh with a 3-1 record so far. Remember, he pitched about every third game. Every fourth game, third game, he would pitch with 2 days rest. Williams rolls an 11 for a 0, and then a 52 for a 6, and there's a double to right center field, and he's the runner on second base with 2 outs here for Bobby Wallace. Rolls an 11 for a 0, and the next roll is a 13 for a 6, and there's a double to left center, and that'll score the run and tie the ball game. Hope Ferris now, and he rolls a 61 for a 30. That's a fly ball over to left field to Doherty for the out. We go to the top of the second, and it is Jiggs Donahue. And Donahue rolls a 36 for a 33. That's a pop-up over to the second baseman. There he is, Williams, for the out, 1 away. Lee Tannehill rolls a 34 for a 44. But hang on, we got the little E, and it's a 16. That is going to be an error. That's changed to an error on the third baseman. That'll be an error on on Ferris, the third baseman. Runner on first base, 1 out here for Billy Sullivan for the White Sox. See if I can figure out what team I'm looking at. And Sullivan's going to bunt, rolls a 26 for a 30, and there's a little bunt over the left side. And this time it is Ferris making the play, throwing over to the second baseman, Williams covering at the bag at first for the out. 2 away, Ed Walsh up there now, and Walsh rolls a 63 for a 13, and there's a strikeout. We go to the bottom of the second, still 1-1. Danny Hoffman up there rolls a 53 for a 17. That'll be changed to an 18, and that's a ground ball over to Atz, the shortstop, who makes an error on it. Having a hard time, not so used to playing at this level. Hoffman is going to do a little hit and run, and he rolls an 11 for a 7, and that's going to unfortunately, is going to be a ground ball over to second base. Davis has it, throws to first for the out, and that's because Walsh has that A rating right now. Runner on second base now, 1 out, bottom of the second. Spencer up there, and he rolls a 12 for a 25, and that's the wrong thing to roll. That's a line drive over to second baseman Davis, who makes the grab and then flips over to Atz for the double play. We go to the top of the third. Fielder Jones now rolls a 55 for an 8. That's going to be a ground ball over to Wallace. It's shortstop, throws to first for the out, 1 away. Ed Hahn rolls a 53 for a 16. That's changed to an 18. That's going to be first on an error, this time on Wallace. 2 errors for the Browns, 1 for the White Sox. We're only in the top of the third. And here's Patsy Doherty, who rolls a 53 for a 17, changed to 16. That's going to be a single. It goes over to center field. And an error by Hoffman causes Hahn to move up to third base. And there's runners at the corners now for George Davis, and 1 out here in the top of the third. Davis rolls a 15 for an 11, and that's a great roll for him, and that'll score 1 and send Doherty over to third. You'll notice that 11 does not have a stolen base associated with it. It's kind of a rarity. 2-1 White Sox here, as they have the opportunity to really bust this one open, and here will be Jake Atz. We're going to keep this infield back, actually, and look for the double play. And the roll is a 21 for a 30, and that's a fly ball over to left field. Stone has it for the out, but the run scores. It's 3-1. Here is Jiggs Donahue, 3-1 for for the White Sox, and he rolls a 62 for a 12, which will be a ground ball over to Wallace, who flips over to Williams at second for the out. We go to the bottom of the third inning, and it's 3-1 White Sox. Rube Waddell rolls a 16 for a 28. That's a ground ball over to Atz, who throws to first for the out, one away. Here's George Stone, who rolls a 65 for a 35, and the little E roll is a 64 out of the range. That's going to be a foul out over to Tannehill at third base. 2 away, and here's Roy Hartzell, who rolls a 35 for a 9. He hits a single, but he's thrown out trying to steal. We go to the top of the fourth, and it's Lee Tannehill. He rolls a 46 for a 27. That is going to be a strikeout for Waddell, 1 away. Here's Sullivan, rolls a 66 for a 0. And then a 44 for a 2, and there's a triple. And they're hitting Waddell all over the park. We will roll the infield, bring the infield in. We'll roll it on in, and we'll have Walsh bunt, might as well. He rolls a 64 for a 13, and that's a strike, and the runner is thrown out trying to steal home. That's the way that one works. We've seen that one before. Next roll for Walsh is a 43 for a 29, which is a strikeout against the K. And that's K number 3. I'm sorry, against the X. That is K number 3 for Waddell. We go to the bottom of the fourth inning, and here's Jimmy Williams. He rolls a 26 for a 30. That's a fly ball over to Doherty in left field, 1 away. Here is Bobby Wallace. Wallace rolls a 12 for a 24. We have a little E to worry about, and it rolls a 43 out of the range. That's a ground ball over to shortstop Atz, who throws to first for the out, 2 away. Hope Ferris rolls a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball this time over to Davis at second, throws to first for the out, and we go to the top of the fifth. It's Fielder Jones. Jones rolls a 43 for a 29. That is a strikeout against Waddell. 4 strikeouts for Rube. Here's Hahn, who rolls a 43 for a 29. There's strikeout number 5, and here's Doherty. Rolls a 64 for a 40. It's going to be a foul ball. Next rolls a 14 for a 43, and here comes that little E roll, and it's a 12, and so that's another error. This time, another error on Wallace. The shortstop is second of the game. 4th error of the game on the Browns, and that'll bring up Davis. Davis rolls a 23 for a 32. That'll be a fly ball over there to Hoffman in center field for the out. We go to the bottom of the 5th, and it is Danny Hoffman here to face off against Ed Walsh. Hoffman rolls a 15 for an 11, and that's going to be a single and a stolen base, and so the Browns have something going on. Here's Tom Jones. Jones rolls a 55 for an 8, and that's going to be a comeback over to Walsh, who throws to first for the out, 1 away, and it's Tubby Spencer, runner on third base. We'll have him swing away. He rolls a 61 for a 32, and that's going to be a fly ball over to right field. Hahn has it for the out, but the run scores. It's 3-2, and here comes Rube Waddell. Waddell rolls a 34 for a 44. It's a fly ball over to Jones in center field for the out. We go to the top of the 6th, and the Browns have climbed back into this game, and I thought the White Sox were going to blow it open, and they haven't. Jake Atz now rolls a 32 for a 26. Ground ball over to Williams at second, throws to first for the out, 1 away. Jiggs Donahue rolls a 34 for a 44. That's a fly ball over to Hoffman in center field for the second out, and it's Lee Tannehill. Tannehill rolls a 54 for a 45. That's going to be a fly ball over to Hartzell in right field for the third out. We go to the bottom of the 6th, and it's George Stone to lead it off. Stone with a 46 for a 29. That's a ground ball over to Walsh, who throws to first, 1 away. Roy Hartzell rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly ball to Doherty in left, 2 away. Jimmy Williams now rolls a 61 for a 36. That's going to be a ball. And now a 66 for a 0, and the next roll is a 63 for a 6. And so that's a double to right center for Williams. That'll bring up Bobby Wallace, and he has a chance to tie this game. And he rolls a 36 for a 33, and that's going to be a little pop-up over to Atz, the shortstop. We go to the top of the 7th inning, still 3-2 White Sox. Sullivan rolls a 63 for a 30. It's a fly ball to left field, 1 out. And here's Ed Walsh. Walsh rolls a 14 for a 43. There is a little E roll, and it's a 54, and that's going to be a fly ball over to Stone in left field, 2 away. Here is Fielder Jones, who rolls a 61 for a 40. That's a foul. And then a 53 for a 15. Change that to a 19. That's going to be a ground ball over to the third baseman, Ferris, who makes the play over to first for the out. We go to the bottom of the 7th. You can tell I've got a lot of this memorized, don't I? Here's Hope Ferris. He rolls a 22 for a 7, and there's a base hit off of Ed Walsh, and this might be the opportunity that the Browns have been looking for to make something happen. So we'll slow this down a little bit here. Ferris is the runner on at first base. That'll bring up Hoffman. Hoffman is let's see here. Hoffman is the potential go-ahead run here at the plate. If he could get a hold of one, he probably won't. Ferris, who I was just looking at, does not quite have the speed necessary to make the hit and run a viable option. We are going to swing away, though, with Hoffman with that 302 on-base percentage, one of the things that we look at, and he rolls a 52 for a 27. It's not the roll you want. That's a little ground ball over to third base, and it's going to be Tannehill, who goes to Davis in second for the force out, one away, and here is Tom Jones. Jones rolls a 55 for an 8, and that's a ground ball again to third base. And this time Tannehill goes to first with this 2 outs, and here's Tubby Spencer. Spencer rolls a 36 for a 33. There is the little E-roll, though. Let's see what happens. It's a 56 out of the range. That's a little pop fly over to Atz, the shortstop. We go to the top of the 8th. Ed Hahn up there now rolls a 65 for a 35. That's a foul ball over to the left side. Ferris has it for the out, one away. Patsy Doherty rolls an 11 for a 0. And then a 26 for a 7. There's a single to right field. You can see that a lot here in 1908 where you get real excited because there's a double column and then it ends up being a single. George Davis rolls a 41 for a 28, and we were hitting and running with Doherty. That ends up being a ground ball over to Wallace, the shortstop, who throws to first for the out, and that breaks up the double play. 2 outs now for Jake Atz. And he rolls a 54 for a 45. That's going to be a fly ball. Really quiet over to Hartzell in right field for the out. Bottom of the 8th. Here is Rube Waddell. Waddell rolls a 54 for a 45. Fly ball over to Hahn in right field for 1. Here's George Stone, who rolls a 35 for a 9. That's going to be a single, but he's then caught stealing. And it's realistic to keep them open to try to steal when you're down by 1. Roy Hartzell now rolls a 54 for a 45. And the little E rolls a 21, so that is going to be an error. That's an error on the left fielder, Doherty. And that'll bring up Jimmy Williams now with the runner on at first base, bottom of the 8th inning. He rolls a 44 for an 8, and that's just another ground ball over to Tannehill at third base, who throws to first for the out. We go to the top of the 9th. It's Jiggs Donahue, and he rolls a 12 for a 24. That is a ground ball over to the shortstop Wallace. Throws to first for the out, one away. Lee Tannehill now rolls a 21 for a 30. That's a fly ball over to left field. Stone has it for the out, and here's Billy Sullivan. He rolls a 65 for a 35, and it's a pop-up over to Jones, the first baseman. Boy, the White Sox have been so quiet ever since all of that barrage in the first couple innings. Here comes Bobby Wallace, and this is the last chance for the Browns. Wallace rolls a 46 for a 29. That is a comebacker to Walsh. Throws the first for the out, one away. Hope Ferris rolls a 12 for a 24. And Lilly rolls a 41 out of the range. That's a ground ball over to Atz, the shortstop, and he throws the first for the out, 2 away. Here's Danny Hoffman. He rolls a 36 for a 30, and that's going to be a fly ball over to left field, and it's Doherty who has that one. There's your ball game. Walsh goes to 4-1. The White Sox go to 7-6. The Browns will go to 8-5. And boy, the Browns had a couple of chances, but not so many late in the late game as Walsh really settled down. I wonder if that the placement of that sun doesn't have something to do with it. Hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will talk with you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.